on the event is right. Good morning and good afternoon, good evening. Happy Thursday to everybody who's here. Thanks for joining. If you're catching up with this later, hey, we meet every Thursday at Gimbal Labs for Plutus PBL live coding. And on Thursdays, we focus specifically on defining the list of projects that's right here on this page. So gpte.gimballabs.io is the mainnet instance of GPTE that's running right now. And the current list of projects is here. This is an application that's being built in real time. It's not really ready for production yet, even though we are using it like that to organize the initial work. And so what I want to do today is have an open work session where people can get familiar with the dApp itself and the list of projects that's here. Now, the way it works is in our repo, we've got the Plutus code and contributor token right here as well, but the actual project descriptions themselves are listed in GPTE front end. And there is a folder called projects that's full of markdown files that look like this. Each one has some YAML metadata. If I look at this in the raw format or in VS Code, you'll see that it's between these triple dashes at the top. Okay, so this is not markdown. It's just whatever arbitrary metadata we want. And this is all used in the dApp in different places. So you can go and you can look at how this is used. If you have questions, be sure to bring those up today. And then below that metadata is some markdown that actually appears on the page. So, you know, if you're not familiar with Markdown, I do recommend just learning the basics of it. But this double kind of hash symbol right here is a heading. So hash maps to an H2 tag. A single hash maps to an H1 tag in HTML. 3 hashes is H3, et cetera, et cetera. So if I go look at this on the page, I've got a bunch of H2s and then a bunch of bullet points. And so if I go look at task number 1 on the live application, that's what I see. Heading, bullet point, heading, 2 bullet points, et cetera, right? All of this is being rendered here. Our goal today is to have a working session for people to get familiar with what's here. So the first thing I ask of everybody is if you head to, bless you, if you head to this link right here, which I'm dropping in the chat. If you're logged into GitLab and you're not yet a member of this repo, you should see like right around here, I think it's right underneath the headline, but let me know if it's somewhere else. You should see like a request access link. If you're not yet a member of this repo, please be sure to request that access, and I'll be able to find your request right here and add you to it. So Alex, you don't have to worry about that. You're already in. Okay, but that would be step 1. Visit that link, make sure you have access. And then additionally, make sure that you've cloned this repo locally. Okay, so you can go to, let's go here. And you can clone locally to then make your own branches and start playing around. But whether it's your preference whether you prefer to be just reviewing things right here on GitLab or in your own development environment like this. Any questions about that first step, just making sure you got access? Hey, Roberto, yeah.
Hey, James, so the GPTE front end, does that replace the old PBL front end template repository?
Not for the course, great question. So no, this is specific to the actual project that's moving towards production right now. The PPBL front end template still exists as is, but I shared this with Alex yesterday when we were talking. The only reason I didn't make this folder right here public yet is that I'm embarrassed I have to clean up the code just a little bit to get rid of, like, I think I might have some like testnet private keys hosted there and some notes to self. But I'm already looking at creating the next set of templates, like a Plutus V2 starter template where we can do Plutus V2 minting out of the box. We'll introduce the contributor token sooner. So all of this is going to replace the PPBL front end template well before we even start publishing that course. I'm hoping to have this ready for anybody who's supporting this team within the next week or two.
Okay. Thanks.
Yep. Let's see if that works. So Sean just requested access. If I go here, I should be able to see it. Yeah, good. Thanks, everybody. So check.
So I just did too, James. And I've got an account on GitLab, but it's telling me I've never added an SSH key. Is that a thing?
Yeah, there's documentation about that too. It's optional, but it's really helpful to go through those steps. Yeah.
Okay.
Anybody else need to troubleshoot requesting access here? Okay. So our workflow today is, again, you can clone this locally, or you can just browse the project from a web browser. And there's two approaches you could take. One is you can review these are the live projects so far, okay? But maybe some of them don't have enough detail or the right detail. For example, on project number 12, actually, Adrian already did that one. That's not a good example. Let's look at this one. Let's see if it looks good. Project number 16, show a list of results by contributor. There's a certain amount of documentation here. But if this documentation is not sufficient, if this task description feels unclear to you for any reason, this is what I'm hoping we can talk about today. But I don't want to lead this conversation. All right. I'd like everybody to take a little bit of time. Oh, shoot, I'm sharing the wrong screen. Sorry. Here, I'm in my browser over here. Project 16, right? Looks like this. And we can see it on the front end as well, on the live deployment. And I would love your support looking through these published projects to make sure that they're sufficient. If you see something that's unclear or incomplete, needs to be changed for any other reason, that's what I want to talk about today. But I want to lean on everybody here to raise those points, okay? Any questions about how we're going to start off? Just with an open work sesh going through the repo. And then as people have questions, you can raise those. All right, let's try it for a while. Okay, I'm going to be doing the same, kind of going through the code on my end and seeing if I'm happy with some of these. So I'll share the screen while I'm doing that. But as soon as you find something that you're like, oh, that doesn't seem right, just unmute and let's talk about it. Actually, here, I'll pull this up on the screen for anybody who needs it too. If you go into your personal settings, so I'm in the top right corner, preferences, SSH keys, there's a link right here that says learn more about SSH. And these are very good docs. If you go through this step by step, you'll learn a little bit about how SSH keys work in the first place. It's kind of empowering. This is a nice kind of moderate level task to get familiar with navigating via your terminal. And it's a really nice thing to have set up once you have it working. It leads to a lot more easy use. Oh, Alex, and yeah, if that link works too, that's great. Very cool. All right, I'm going to switch to my VS Code window. I've got the list of projects right here. And I'm actually gonna start by looking through the list of drafts as well and just see the state of these. Okay. But once again, just unmute as you have questions and let's see what we accomplished today.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you, what's up?
Awesome. Yeah, no, I just wanted to point out previously with the SSH keys, it comes in handy when you're dealing with linking your IDE to your GitLab account when you're creating tokens and stuff. So I'm more familiar with Xcode, but I'm sure others, well, actually Xcode and other Mac-centric IDEs, but I'm sure even with Visual Studio, this is basically the same thing, where you're able to create a link to your account where you can then basically be pushing or pulling repositories. It's quite helpful. Yeah. So
It's the same underlying technology that we're using for blockchains too, right? When you create an SSH key pair, you create a private key and a public key. The private key stays in your SSH directory on your device, and the public key, you just copy and paste it into GitLab or wherever else you want to be able to interact with. And now that replaces the need to enter a password every time you want to interact with a repo. It's a really good feeling once you set it up.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, because you have the option of using HTTPS, right, and passwords to do that connection, or you can use cryptographic keys. Super helpful.
To illustrate what A is talking about, if I'm in this project right here, the clone button is here, and I could go to my command line and I could type git clone and I could paste this version or this version. And when I initially clone something, it's going to look similar. But to get that SSH interaction, just make sure you use this git at GitLab link right here instead of the HTTPS one. Right, and there's even these integrations. If you want to make it even easier, you could play with any of these you want to as well. All right. So we've got a list of published projects 1 through 9, 12, 15, 16, 18, 25, and then some drafts. I'm going to focus on the drafts, but I recommend if you haven't gone through these published projects yet, these are the ones that need attention from somebody other than me, because I don't know if they're written clearly enough yet, and I would love your feedback. And let's get all of these to the point where they feel really clear and actionable.
James.
Sorry, go ahead.
Hi, James, it's Dan.
Hey, Dan.
Hey, sorry, I joined late. We had a fuel delivery. Can you share the link for the GitLab?
Yeah.
Again, please.
You got
Brilliant.
it. And step 1 is just for everybody to request access on that if you don't have it already, and I'll make you a developer on this repo.
Hi, actually, I have a slightly tangential question. It's just that I'm fairly new to JavaScript. The only exposure I have is whatever I did in PBL. So are there any tutorial series or anything that helped you guys out as a beginner that I could use. I would really appreciate any recommendations.
Anybody got any favorites?
I would say look up Brad Traversy on YouTube. There's this other guy. I can look up a couple. And there's if you want something a little bit more complete, you can look for paid courses on Udemy. I like Cold Steel. It's pretty thorough and does a really good job of just explaining everything instead of just like coding along.
Oh, great. Thank you. Thank you very much. So
I'll find the links and put them on the.
thanks. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Yeah, having a list of great resources there would be good. The mesh guides obviously aren't teaching you JavaScript from scratch, but they can be really helpful for getting some key concepts. Here's the Traversy Media site. This looks good. Colt Steel on Udemy looks good. I've used Code Academy to learn JavaScript in the past. Is that what? I think this is what I. Yeah, I've been pretty happy with the JavaScript offerings here. It's been a while since I've touched any of these, but they have pretty nice integrated environments, and you can look at which ones are free. You know, this intro just to Node is pretty short, but just so you know, like how that local environment's working, et cetera, et cetera. There's all sorts of great stuff here.
Would this include React or yeah, I guess it would.
Excellent. I think they have React as a separate topic here, do they? Maybe not. So that could be under web development.
The React docs are really good. If you want to learn React, the React docs are pretty complete.
Oh yeah. Okay, good. Good. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. You can't go wrong just reading through the main concepts on the React docs. That's right. Thanks, Roberto.
Just as a ancillary, I find LearnX in Y minutes, which I've put in the chat, quite helpful to get to give like a good broad understanding of many sort of different languages. Yeah, that's it. James, do you not trust the links in the chat?
No. I was being lazy. It's too hard to
Okay.
open and close the Zoom chat dialogue on this other computer. It was easier just to type it.
Cool.
Very good. Great resources coming through. This is awesome. And yeah, everybody, so you know, one thing to do with this work session, like I said, is to look at the GPTE tasks as they currently are. But if you also just want to use this time to beef up your own skills, what I'm thinking for these Thursday sessions is this can be our co-working time, our time to get together, do what we got to do, and just be in the same space where we can ask questions quickly.
And just to put a final point on what I'd to the point in which I made about learn X in Y minutes, I'll put in the Haskell one, because basically if you go to the base directory of the website, like you'll see all the listed languages that they have. And yeah, as I said, it's really good because like it gives you like a breakdown of, you know, all the different bits of syntax our language has, and in a really approachable way. So yeah, I find it to be a really good reference in terms of, you know, even really kind of obscure languages like COBOL or something. They actually have really good breakdowns for.
You like this better than asking ChatGPT how to do it?
Well, one's an old girlfriend and the other is the new. We're still getting to know each other.
I don't trust the new one yet.
Oh, me neither.
She's
But
got a
in
few
time,
things
I
to
know
prove.
she's gonna be everywhere. So
Oh, she's ubiquitous though. Gosh.
yeah, I know. She's gonna be like the Borg. Or in Rick and Morty, what's her name? The program who's assimilated a whole bunch. Unity, I think. Quite fitting.
My brother tells me I'm gonna love that show, but I haven't had time
Dude,
to get into it
try
yet.
out. Alex Monad Watanabe hadn't watched it for the longest time. I hounded him. He watched it. His son loved it. He watched it and he was like, okay, I see what you mean. So try out. It's cool. Well, have you seen what Wanda said in the chat?
I actually asked
What does she
about
say?
Gimbalance and didn't give it that much information, so I fit it in. And then now has a schedule for all these, and I think it will be good. A good way to do marketing, you know.
Wait. If you ask what Gimbal Labs is, now that you trained it, it'll tell you the schedule for Gimbal Labs?
Yes, as much as I could, and also what it is, who are the funders, and the font, and all that.
All right.
So I
Thanks.
hope
That's
it's
pretty
going to
cool.
do well.
That's fantastic.
And I was about to say that someday, but I just completely forgot. But now you brought it in.
That's good. That's really cool.
Hey James, did you change some of the projects multiple commitment status?
I did. I was playing with that just to make sure that the behavior was as expected. Yeah.
Oh, and then okay,
Is
let
that-
me check it again. I think
Yeah, feel
it's
free on
working.
that current pre-prod branch, feel free to just change those back and forth. We can. And I actually realized some of the ones that were saying false, I think they should say true, especially some of the simple entry level ones. But that's something we can fine tune anytime.
Can you guys hear me?
Hey, Sean, yeah.
Yeah. Just a question I had was like, it's a basic question, but like, I'm assuming that we need to fork the repo and then make changes and then push them like, because like the request access thing I've never done before, but we're not directly pushing changes to the main branch, right?
That's right. That's right. So exactly, right? So there's basically two ways to interact with any repo on GitLab or GitHub. You can be a member of the team, or you can be an outside contributor. And if you're an outside contributor, then yeah, you fork first, which in my experience is kind of easier from the web interface, right? I can fork from the web interface, create my own fork, pull down my fork to my local environment, make changes, commit those to my fork, and then if I review that in the web interface, it kind of guides you through the process of then creating a merge request. If you're a member of the team, then you could make changes to the main branch, but best practice is to create a new branch locally first, make those changes, and then submit the merge request from there. That reminds me, I don't think we have a draft of this yet, but I think here I'm going to start a new document right now. We'll call this one number 28.
James?
Yep.
Quick question. I'm creating an SSH key pair, and it's saying enter file in which to save the key. Does it matter what it's called?
You should see in like brackets a default file name.
ID_RSA.
Yeah, and so if you don't enter anything, you'll just get that default. And if you've never done it before, it's fine just to use that one. But if you're making multiple keys, then you'll want to name them, give them illustrative names so you can tell them apart.
Okay, we'll just go with one pair to start with. Okay, thanks.
Hey James, when you're done with it, I think we can take a look at this. I took a rather lazy approach, but after thinking for a while, it shouldn't cause any problems.
All right, let's try it. So from Sean's idea, this reminded me of something I wanted to do. I'm making a placeholder in the drafts directory. I do think we should have a project posted for creating a contributor guide that covers Git usage, approval processes, and maybe more. So this is what I've been doing for a long time with this drafts folder. Is when I think of something that maybe we should have something about, I just do like this much and I leave it there and I come back to it later and maybe it turns out to be relevant. Okay. I just did a review and I saw that some of these to me maybe don't even feel relevant anymore, or at least like a priority. Okay. But this is next step. After we're all really happy with what's here, the immediate follow-up step is then to say, okay, well, what else needs to be added? And so if you have any just vague ideas of what need to be added, feel free to add a project draft to this folder. Even if you have, just like a one-line description, but it's something that you think might be a really good idea. Feel free to add that folder, and you can add a merge request for that too. All right, but yeah, let's see. Nelson, I would love to pull those changes and make sure we got that working.
I'm gonna first just okay, go ahead.
Oh yeah, another question I had was not GPTU related, but PPBL. There's like these really tiny changes that would, I think, improve the quality of life in terms of I don't know, just for example, the testnet still pointing to the old testnet magic in some of the files or things like that. So I have changed those things on my local Git pull anyway. So is it okay if I just I don't know fork it, do it, and I don't know, submit a merge request for that?
Amazing. Yes, please. Thank you.
Great, perfect. So I'll just small things, like they don't change the content at all, but yeah.
Oh man, thank you. That's a dream come true. We've needed some help on that for a while. And just to give everybody the high level view, we're already looking ahead to the next iteration of Plutus PBL, call it PBL 23. And we have a gentle target of trying to get that published by early March, about 2 months from now. And so that's there's enough that has changed since the initial release of this course that it just feels more efficient to not throw away everything and start over, but also not try to just revise what's there. So yeah, we've definitely dropped the ball on a couple of those finer points. So that's incredible to get your help on that. Thank you. I'm just going to check if there's any other membership requests. Yep, let's just add that. And then if I go to Nelson, did you make a merge request or should we just look at your screen?
Let's just look at it first, and if it works, then I'm gonna make some polish. I'm gonna polish some of the code.
All right, I'm going to unshare so you can jump in.
Cool. During this transition, I'll just quickly take advantage and say, yeah, sure. Doing stuff like that is really helpful, and I think just as a community, we need to, as Jim said, get into the habit of doing that. And I think this problem possibly gets compounded once we get to the internationalization standpoint of things, right? As Indonesia and is it Thailand? No, it's not. Vietnam, that's it. Come online, and other regional specific manifestations of gimbal. That's something which I think we need to really be on top of, because one of the frustrations that people have when it comes to, I mean, writing code is already scary to most people, kind of off-putting enough. That's kind of accelerated or catalyzed once you get into it, and there's even more frustration with the documentation. Like code is frustrating enough, and trying to find bugs or typos, etc. IDEs have gotten better with that, but still, like, being able to have really good documentation, like, that's such a mark of a great project and or community, and it speaks volumes. So yeah, I just wanted to quickly share that with folks, and and request that as you go about your day and just thinking about stuff, like, keep that top of mind.
Hey, let's make Balaji proud in our forkability of the systems that we're making. Yeah, and all documentation, translatability, all of that. This gives us a chance to practice some of those concepts.
Agreed.
We just had, really quick, we had I had a weekly check-in with Cremo and Jingles, and we're starting to conceive of building our own learning management system. So more on that to come. And if we do it, it's one of the things we'll want to do is make that sort of localization as seamless as possible. If there's anything we can do to make that easier, that should be one of the design principles. All right.
I'll just quickly add on to that. Actually, I was talking to Adriana yesterday in a similar manner. Like, he's working on V2 Game Changer, and it's going to be crazy, like, just a functionality that's going to come on board. The reasonable criticism that someone had of Game Changer over of Mesh over Game Changer a few calls back, that's no longer going to be a thing, and so much more. So what we're doing actually is we're talking about, NQ was part of this conversation, and he's sort of spearheading it, which is creating content for V1 of Game Changer, but just a little sort of slither of that. before V2 comes out, and then sort of, creating that similar content for the beginning slither of V2, and then, everything else. But it's creating PPBL or PBL content for that. And so, yeah, it's and obviously Adriano is based in Argentina, last I remember. And so, yeah, just general like South America, like we do need to kind of be thinking about that. And it's really exciting. It's challenging, but at the same time, it's really exciting to to think of the possibilities of it kind of percolating, and just actual products and services which solve local problems and create local communities coming to life.
It's real, baby. That's so exciting. Yeah, Q put in for a playground presentation in February. I just noticed that for the first time yesterday. So looking forward to that. All right, Nelson, what am I looking at?
Right. So we were getting the TypeScript error for this, right? So I tried to do it the good boy way and try to work with S4TX, the predefined the prediction data type. And I went down that rabbit hole for some time. I found out there are multiple layers to the types, and I had to deal with the exos and all of them. I got confused for a while. So I thought I'm just dealing with three values here, four actually. The metadata and address, and I think I don't even need asset type. I'm dealing with asset names. So metadata, address, and asset name. So instead of using the predefined transaction, I just define a new type and use those values, right? I don't, yeah, I mean, since this is using only for this commitment status process, I don't think we're going to need to use this type anywhere else, but this is an easier way to fix the problem, right? So I think this is working, and maybe I haven't went through every edge case in the testing, but do you think this is cool?
Yeah, so that type matches the incoming GraphQL query. And now when we filter the transactions by ID, we know we've got a list of those types right there, and we're saying, give us these ones. Yep, yep. So now this then raises the question, if you're passing, good, okay. So the output of filter transactions by ID is now a list of raw escrow TXs. And now when we use filter transactions by ID, that's being used on both the project page and the project card components, right?
Yes, that is.
So yeah, this page right here is perfect, ID. Are you getting any complaints when you call filter transactions by ID now, or did you change that too? You can just search. Just search that ID.
You made some changes here for it to be the S4TX, right? I undid those changes, right? So it's cool. This is the current status.
Yeah. And you see that difference from yesterday, right? Remember how we had all of those spinning wheels yesterday, and now we have the single
Yes.
spinning wheel and it all loads up. That's better. That's great. So yeah, we're getting the desired behavior here. That looks good. Back in VS Code, yeah, this looks good too. On the ID.tsx route, can you just search this file for filter transactions by ID? Yeah, so TX from TX2 escrow and TX from escrow. Now the data type of each of those is a list of raw TX escrow. And then are you getting any complaints when you use TX2 escrow or TX from escrow? Just show where they're declared on 121 and 122, but then where are those used inside of this file?
Okay, so I'm just using it here
Right here.
and here.
Okay, so the status is now a list of raw TX escrows. Okay.
Yeah, there are two functions here: get commitment status and get contributor token names. Right. So we have the get contributor token names first.
Yeah, good.
So it returns a list of token names.
Good. 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 So at the end of the day, we're getting a list of token names that have been interacting with that project in one way or another. And clearly we can see. Good. Good. Yeah, this looks good. Let's try it here. You can, if you feel,
Okay, I'm gonna I'm using this type in two places. I'm going to put it in the types. Where is it? Yeah,
Great.
I'm gonna export it from there and polish this together.
Drop it in. There's, if you look in the types folder, there's an index, which is just collecting the different unique files. Throw that one in the GQL results.ts, right? Because this is the set. And you might even see, I didn't look closely enough. You might even see that you could refactor some of this. So look, like in this file right here, you see how at the very top of it, GraphQL UTXO is defined.
Yeah.
Right. And then down below, for example, on line 45, we then use that GraphQL UTXO type in the GraphQL transaction. Okay, so you might even see that you could refactor a little bit right there, but don't worry about that for now. If this works, I want to see it work, and then we can go back and kind of clean up those types. Awesome. Thanks. Let me know when you push that up, and we'll see that it passes test. The other thing, did you check if there are any other maps without a key in what's being iterated?
I don't see VS Code giving any more errors on it.
Good. I appreciate that you called it, Nelson, the good boy way, because I often feel like I'm being lectured by TypeScript. and it's trying to make me be a better person. Now another way to add new project drafts is also just to look through the code base or the app itself and look at things that need to be improved. Okay. So for example, reporting and data, there's all sorts of stuff here where all I've done so far is provided a bunch of raw data in different formats, right? None of this is the way that people are going to want this data to look like when they're using this app in production. Okay. And so you can look through things like that. And in some cases, I've said, okay, how would you use this data in this project listing right here, for example? This is one place that there's clear work to do and we can define it. So if you see something that's not yet listed on the projects page, we can look at that. But another really silly thing, I did this as quick and dirty as possible, is how this number right here is calculated. It says 3 completed projects right now. And if you think about what a completed project is, it means that somebody committed to it, and then that commitment was distributed. That would be a full loop, right? And so we would expect this number right here to be half of the number of total escrow transactions in a very naive sense, right? And so the fact that it's half of 6 is good, but there's a problem with this. The problem is we've only completed a complete lap twice, okay? So if I look at transactions by project, I can see those 6 transactions, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. This one represents a completed loop, a commitment and a distribution. This one, same thing. But these right here, this is a commitment without yet a distribution. And so is this one. Okay. So really there's only 2 completed laps. So the reason we're seeing a 3 is because just to initially implement that data point, here's what I did. I'm on the home page, the index, which has this treasury summary. If I go into the treasury summary, one of the data points I see is the project count. Oh no, the distribution count. Here, let me go back to that homepage for just a second. We've got a project count. There's 13 live projects right now, and a distribution count, 3 completed projects.
James, could I just quickly chime in?
Of course.
A quick point. Just if you may, if you could just go back to the web page that you're on. Folks who are on using Zoom on the browser, I'm not sure whether this applies to the app, but there's that annoying green thing which says on the interface you are viewing James Dunsey's screen. You could be able to scroll that to the side to be able to actually see the URL string at the top. Yeah, so you're able to kind of follow along. Yeah, and not feel left behind. Just thought to throw that out there. Yeah, it's all right.
Good. All right, so where this number comes from, I'm going to embarrass myself right now, but this is for a reason. So if I go to this distribution count widget, right, which is all it's doing is it's watching a metadata key. This actually, and let me add a comment right here. Distribution count widget is a good context for implementing some Cardano indexer, right? This is what Cardano indexers are for, is so that we don't have to query the whole chain if all we really care about, for example, is what's happening at one metadata key. We're not yet using an indexer in the dApp as it is. And coming back around to looking ahead to the next iteration of the PPBL course, I would like to include at least an introductory treatment of at least one indexing option in the course. And this is a really nice place to do that, right? Again, watching a single metadata key or watching a single contract address. Sean, see you soon. See you next week. Is a great example of what indexers are good for. But let's go into this widget. And you can see it's just a box with a number and some text, number of completed projects. And as you can see, here is the arithmetic that's happening. All we're doing is taking the total number of transactions at that metadata key and dividing by 2, which is clearly not going to give us the number of completed loops of commitment, then distribution. It's just going to say, here's how many total transactions there's been, and so half of it. So after Nelson made a commitment yesterday, the number of completed projects up on the page there was 2.5. And then Yuli made a commitment yesterday, and so now we see 3 because 6 total transactions divided by 2. So I even had a note, right? This is an example of a note that I left as a to-do list item for myself to take this and turn it into a project description, okay? And there's a few of these scattered about the project that I'm still in the process of going through and turning these into project descriptions. But the reason I'm sharing this with you right now is just as one example of how we can find things that really aren't written the way they should be yet, and therefore allow us to add additional tasks. Any questions about that one? So while I'm thinking about it, I'm actually going to write a project for this one right now.
Hey James, so I posted to another branch and I haven't created a merge request yet, but
Awesome.
you can see it.
Awesome. It's not coming through yet. I'll wait for just a sec.
I haven't put in a merge request yet. I
Oh,
posted in
okay.
another branch.
Oh, good. Okay.
Do you want me to make the request?
I see you got it right here. Yeah. So there's a record of you having done it and submitting that request. I think that's best. Yep. And you can make that request to current pre-prod again.
Right. Yeah, just do it. It isn't coming through yet.
Got it, yeah. So because I just saw that, right, I can see your changes right here. What I'm gonna do is just merge this straight away to current pre-prod, good. And this is just, I'm working a little bit lazily, just in the name of efficiency. What this is going to do is trigger the build on our continuous deployment. And so we'll see if there's any like uncaught errors that VS Code didn't report on. And then if it works, what I'll do is I'll take these changes that are now on current pre-prod, I'll merge them with the main branch, and then I'll cherry pick those changes and merge them with the mainnet branch, because none of this is gonna, we didn't do anything to change like smart contract interactions or anything like that. Good, so it looks like that worked. Excellent. So now if I visit the current pre-prod live deployment, how we looking? It loaded. Nice, dude. Yeah, cool. Cool. Very cool. Way to go. Really cool. So what I'm now able to do, so there's I keep 3 versions of this: the current pre-prod live deployment, the current mainnet live deployment, and then a main branch to kind of collect all these changes. So we now know so there's a couple things I need to pull down. And then I've been making these changes, right? That's all good if that goes there. All right, so I'm going to add these to main. I can push those up. Couple of conflicts. Let me see. They only come. So now what I've basically been doing is keeping the main branch and for now the current pre-prod branch in sync. So I should be able to say git merge current pre-prod to main. We're happy enough with how that's working. So that's fine. Boom. Good. And I can push those up to main. And I also just made a couple of changes on main that need to be reflected on pre-prod. So I can say git checkout current pre-prod, and I can merge main back to here to make sure we're up to date there and push those changes up. Oh, are there a few more I got to pull down? Oh, I didn't pull those down yet, of course. Okay, so pull down the latest changes from Nelson. Yes, that's fine. Now we should be up to date. Let's try one more time to merge main. Good. Let's push those up. Great. Good. Okay, so now those two are in sync. So if I say like git diff main current pre-prod, I think I can say, what is it? Name only? Yeah. So this git diff main current pre-prod shows me that there are no differences between the main and the current pre-prod branches. And then I can do the same thing, and I can see that the mainnet instance has a whole bunch of changes. Okay, now some of this stuff I don't actually want to change. So for example, in the Cardano Plutus directory, the instance variables for the 3 contracts, I don't want to change those. I don't want those to be in sync with current pre-prod. Then it would be a current pre-prod instance, right? So stuff like that, I don't want to change. But on the other hand, some of the new project drafts, it's okay if we keep those up to date. And I certainly want the changes that Nelson just made to be reflected on the main app. So here's how I do that. I'm going to git log one line. Yeah, okay. So here's a list of commits, and I just want to make a quick note of which ones of these I actually want. Off screen, I'm looking at the changes. All right, so from Nelson's additions, 5, 6, 9. We brought this one. That's better. Here, this is what I was looking for. There's tools you can use. There's one called Git K to make this even more automated. But I still like being cautious, making sure I'm getting exactly the changes we want. So I'm just going through off screen, the merge
Hey, James.
requests. Yep.
If you're going to pick the files that have been changed only, then I think it should work for the last commit only, because I have all the changes are touched by the last change, right?
They are, but if there was like a line, if there was a line that changed on this commit right here, and then wasn't changed again, if I cherry pick each of these commits, it's gonna only change in the files that have been changed, the lines that were changed on that commit. So I want to go through these in order just to make sure I'm not missing anything. It may be a tiny bit redundant, but it's kind of the safest way to look at this. And this is something I'm thinking about ways. This goes back to what A said a few minutes ago about localization and version management as we're doing everything, right? How are we going to push out the latest changes to people who are running an instance of this thing? That problem statement is why tools like NPM exist, right? And this kind of illustrates why it's so urgent to make a component package out of this project, because the process I'm doing right now is not how we're going to scale this thing. All right, but here in this early iteration, we have the ability to just go through piece by piece, make sure the right changes are going to the right spot.
Just so I understand properly, here what you're going to do is cherry pick the lines, not the files.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Each of these commits is hyper focused on only those changes that it made. Okay. And you added this type. This one merge, right. That was good. We merged debugging. That's fine. I might be able to simply use like this one and this one, and that's worth testing. But I'm saving myself from kind of the unknown by doing it this way, and I want to double check that I understand Git well enough by creating like a lower stakes environment for just making sure that these work as we would have expected. I do want this one after I pull those changes from you, and I even want this one because that was just a quick little change to a. Okay, good. That's the list I want right there. So now, if I check out mainnet instance 1, and I run that same command, I won't see any of these commit tags yet. All right. The most recent change was playing with the token issuer token name. That was what I fixed yesterday, just to hot fix your ability to make a commitment, Nelson. So now all I have to do is say git cherry, it's cherry dash pick. And the usage here is you just say, well, that's not helpful. All I want is the tag. I thought this would be easier to read. Yeah. So let's just say that. For example, this one came first. And so we can grab that without any problems. Great. We'll do the same thing with the next one. And just down the list. Oops. not apply. Conflict in commitment status, .tsx.
I think you missed the commit you made. And I made those changes after that.
Oh, yeah, and I made that one to main. Perfect. Okay, good, good, good. Good. So I need to grab, good call. I made a in between this one, update types and commitment status was mine. So if I do that one in between, and then, and again, there's a tool called Git K where you can actually, good call, Nelson, that worked perfectly. There's a tool called Git K where you can do what I'm doing right here visually. But I'm kind of like somebody who's still building transactions on Cardano CLI when it comes to some of this advanced Git usage. And so I'm kind of like, I'm still doing things the long way. Just to make sure I'm understanding everything as well as I can. No commit is a merge, but no message option was given. That's fine. Where's that? I'm not going to worry about that one. We'll fix that one later on. This, if I what I hope for is now when I push these changes to the mainnet instance, we're going to see that the thing looks good. So here's our Vercel continuous integration. It's building on the mainnet instance right now, so we'll see in a couple seconds if that came through right. Sweet. And if I visit the live site right now. All right, those are some integrated changes. That's cool. Very cool. We see this one is closed because it's been completed. The one I completed was here, project number 5. And that one is still open for commitment because project number 5, just to confirm, has multiple commitments true. Excellent. Looks good, man. Congratulations. Oh, Sarah, see you soon.
I think while you're pushing the changes in the mainnet, you might have turned on a lot of multiple commitments true.
Yeah, I did. And that's on purpose. Which ones did I change? I changed number 2, create a style for commit to project. That's good. Number 3, a modal for commitment TX. I think that's okay to have that one 10. Oh, this is number 4. Sorry, number 4. Yep. I want people to just understand a little bit more about chakra. So this is okay if a few people do that one. Commitment success modal, same thing. I got this one started, but I didn't really style it yet. And then those are the only ones I changed. Starting at 6 and onward, if it was false, it's still false.
The one I'm committing it's also set to true. So
Oh, let's see why. Okay, so that was this one right here. Number 3. Oh yeah, I did change that one.
yeah,
And that one
also,
probably doesn't, yeah.
Also the project we want, Yuli has committed, right? We want to see that if the contributor token source.
Oh yeah, we want to see this one as committed, right? Why don't we? Do we see a live commitment? Ooh,
Because you have set
oh,
multiple commitments true, so it's open to commitment.
I changed this one to true, so that's why we see that. Okay, so I'm going to fix that. Check it out. Look at our live commitments and seeing the wrong token. That's a cool bug.
Yes. All right.
Can you squash that one?
Yeah, I can.
And then you can make that, so do that change as before on pre-prod, and I'll grab that one when you're ready. That's
Oh, yeah, one thing I want to run by, this is the one I told you before, I use indexing instead of fetching it with the ID, right? And thinking about how to do it now, I should have all of the issuer token policy IDs to filter out the token names, right?
yes, exactly. So this is very similar to, I showed you that really silly case a few minutes ago of how I'm calculating the number of completed projects. But assuming an index is similar to that, right? And the better solution is to filter by policy ID and get precisely the token we want to be talking about. So yeah, a helper function that looks at the results of querying an escrow address. You're already filtering by metadata. And then within those results, right, within each of those escrow TXs, we want to then filter the token list by policy ID.
So for the mainnet instance, there is only one issuer token.
One contributor token, right? Here what matters is the contributor token and that policy ID. And in fact, even yes, on mainnet, there's only one policy ID for contributor tokens, but also even on pre-prod, there's 2 different naming conventions because we experimented first with this simple access token, and then we transitioned to the new naming convention to have those token pairs. But both of those have the same policy ID.
Wait, I actually tried using filtering by the ID first, and I found out that there are different IDs, so I used the index instead. Maybe if we can see the transactions in the pre-production live version, dashboard, the transactions, I think.
Yeah.
We have.
And we have to jump to book club in just a moment. So find an example if you can, but as far as I know, all of these contributor tokens, here's the newer versions where we're experimenting with the token pairs. And then the older ones are the ones without the 222 or the 100 prefix. But all of these have the same policy ID. It should only be this policy ID right here.
All right, let me check that and
Yeah, check it out. If you find that scenario where there are multiple ones showing up, just send a link to that and we can look at that.
Right.
Y'all keep feedback coming. I'm hoping that this style of a session on Thursdays makes sense and it becomes something that we can look forward to together as a shared work session. Sometimes there will be more governance style conversations as we all, start to have a better idea in our head about the list of projects that's up there. But I'm hoping that this time helps us get to that point where we can have more voices and more informed conversations about the lists of projects as they are. I know that I'll be looking forward to this time every week. Appreciate it, y'all. All right, I'm going to close this one down and open up the book club Zoom. See you there if you're able to make it. Cheers.